It's Alan. This is Ear Meal. Thank you again for tuning in. Today's guest is Carole Kim.
Hello.
Carole was asked to be on Ear Meal because not only is she a phenomenal video artist, but she's worked with a lot of experimental music folks here in LA, but probably outside of LA. You're all over
Outside
the place.
of LA too, but mainly here.
So, how did you come to start working with all of these musicians?
I have somewhat of a music background myself, so I played saxophone for 11 years, clarinet, oboe, and piano. And it was in college when I was doing visual arts as well that I felt like I was doing each not to their fullest. So I felt like I needed to make a choice at the time, and I opted to go for the visual arts and drop the music. Just so I could fully devote myself to it.
Why did you choose that?
I think it's because I needed what I was doing to be more private than what it is for a musician. I also feel like it was a better fit for me at the time. Like I didn't feel like I was one with my instrument. Whereas in the studio, in a more private setting, I felt like I was able to figure things out more. So there's that. But then there's a story of moving to Los Angeles in 1990. My very first group of friends, for which I was very grateful, happened to be the new music scene here in LA. So through Nels Cline, I was a regular at the New Music Monday series at the Alligator Lounge in Santa Monica.
The Alligator Lounge.
Yes, the Alligator Lounge scene. So every Monday night I'd be going and just hearing the most fantastic music. And it was such a source of inspiration for me, how I could bring that kind of immediacy and that kind of alertness to the interaction, to the work that I was doing in another medium. And then it took many years after that when I moved away from LA for a while and then came back and completely reinvented my practice. So I come from I guess what you call a plastic arts background, so drawing, painting, printmaking, sculpture, photography. And I decided to go full on into new media at the time and went back for another master's degree at CalArts. And that's where I got involved in doing the media-based performance artwork that I do. And now perform with all the musicians that I love and adore. So I feel like everything has come full circle, like a longer arc over time, and have come together so that it's all gelling together. Visual arts, music, sound, that kind of thing. So
what was the first piece that you developed with the thought that it was going to be in conjunction with music?
I first started doing these image sound exchanges with Nels Cline and with G. Stinson to do single channel videos. So then what I have done since then, so for the last almost 15 years, is experiment and try to figure out how to make video be as live a medium as someone playing a musical instrument. And so I've done that at every juncture of the delivery of video, whether it be through software or use of a live camera and how to use a camera as an instrument, or the way in which the moving image is projected and the environments upon which I project. So constantly trying to get my hands in there and make it more malleable, and make it more physical, make it more like a plastic medium. So another thing that I was concerned about is how do you combine video with live performance? And one of the predominant models that are out there, whether they be in theater, music, or what have you, is classically you have a huge projection behind and the live performers in front.
Right.
And for me, that's a very limited way to go, because the big screen behind puts you in a different viewing mode. Like you go into watching movie mode, and then yet you have a live performer in front of you. So as a person in the audience, you tend to just oscillate between the two, but not integrate the two.
Oh, yeah.
And usually the performers are unaware of what's going on behind you. So either you're fancy wallpaper or there's no interaction. So none of that interests me, you know. So I wanted it to be a situation where we're really listening and watching everybody, and also that the whatever is mediated is integrated with what is live. So one way in which I've been doing that is creating these translucent layered environments and embedding the live performer within that environment. So I call that compositing in real space. So anyone who's involved in digital media is used to dealing with layers on the timeline, like whether it be Photoshop or whether it be Final Cut or what have you. So for me, it's like you're taking those layers out of the software and throwing them into actual space. This is called Furnace, and I was invited to be an artist in residence at a space downtown in Chinatown called Automata. Mm-hmm. And they let me have free reign of the space to build out whatever I wanted. So it was like this classic concrete basement that you'd imagine this big furnace in, but there was no furnace. So I wanted to create a sound environment where the sound would be the furnace of the piece. Oh, nice. And so then we linked the sound to the sound system upstairs. So the whole idea is that this was going to give us the juice for what happened upstairs. This piece was based on this passage from my book called There But For The by Ali Smith. And I'll just read the first sentence. It says, what would happen if you did just shut a door and stop speaking? We were talking about recluses just earlier. Right. Hour after hour after hour of no words. Would you speak to yourself? It's a story about a man who goes to a dinner party, and between the main course and the dessert, he locks himself in the guest room and refuses to leave and only communicates by notes under the door. So this idea of becoming a recluse and censoring a certain form of verbal communication, what does that do to your verbal reality in your mind? You know, do you lose touch with language? That kind of thing. Okay. So upstairs was this layered environment with this mesh screen, all shredded in strips, okay? And it goes right over the audience. So you're completely immersed in this shredded environment. Is one with all these layers and how it's not planar, so it becomes like this forest.
Right. I was thinking it was going to be screens, and it's not. It looks like strips.
Yeah, there's just strips hanging.
That's awesome.
And so the dancers would tend to disintegrate into the environment. So it's all about the dematerialization of the body. In contrast, downstairs, so the audience would see half the show upstairs and downstairs, and then they would swap places.
Oh.
And then in the basement, I rigged this environment. So we have Oguri down here, and you'll see all these strips hanging. It's entirely rigged with contact mics. So this was an environment where everything had to do with, where it was dematerialization upstairs, it was the materiality of things downstairs, where every bit of friction he had with the environment was amplified. So you just got the rubbing, the salt on the metal, and so this was our furnace. Video installations were becoming so incredibly sculptural that they seemed to want it to spin off and be their own thing and not have to worry about a performer being in there. Like I still want to work that way, but it seemed like they wanted to just be explored for the sake of themselves. So Cola allowed me to do just standalone installations, which I hadn't done for a long time, and I hadn't shown my work in an art context for a long time. And so I was so aware of the differences that those a different context creates. You know, it changed the way I made the piece. It changed the way you view the piece. Each installation was made for two or three people to see at a time. You could never do a performance. Well, you could, but it would be difficult. And it allowed the work to develop in a different way that you'll see impacted my next performance piece. So it was very helpful that way. So the work at Cola was inspired by the book Collapse, How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed by Jared Diamond. So I had this book going on in my head. So the piece that I have, this piece is called Rings, and it was inspired by the use of dendrochronology to understand what was going on in an environment in any given time in the past. So the reading of tree rings. So to me, it's like a reverse palm reading. Instead of looking into the future, you're trying to decipher the past by, my way into that were to make these screens where I dipped this pendulum in acrylic medium and let it run their orbit and leave these trails all over the mesh. And so you're looking at 3 layers of those drawings projected upon.
Now, when you were sitting in the space, the depending on the light and I guess the video, different parts would be highlight in a sense, right? And so, and then not only on that one plane, but on several planes.
Right.
Yeah. So it was when you get really into it, there's this sort of pulsation that starts to happen a little bit with the piece.
Yeah.
How does that movement relate to this, what do you call it? The reading of the past?
I think it's more what I'm interested in the layering is that it sets up this spatial relationship that we're not used to seeing on a moving screen. You know, like people have called my work 3D without the glasses. You know, like because like it also this strange, like you keep blinking your eyes and going, what am I looking at? How is it doing that? You know, through these use of different materials that way.
It's also kind of like lenticular imagery, right?
Yeah,
Except
yeah.
you're standing still.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah. The other thing I say about that piece is that the two layers that are drawn upon and sewn upon, they light up from the projected light, but they throw a shadow onto the frontmost layer. So photographically speaking, they function both as the negative and the positive. So there's that kind of inroad to it as well. For both pieces in the Cola show, I used the sound by the musician-composer Toshimaru Nakamura. And we had performed together at the See It Festival in 2007. So Toshi's known for his work using the no-input mixer. So he just uses a mixer and the noise within a system and just really sensitively and delicately modulates that. So he comes up with the most subtle, beautiful music, sound, whatever but just manipulating those variables. So he became known for that. Like back then, I think he said he had been doing it for 10 years already. But so he's that's his signature way of working, but he works with other things as well. So both these pieces, he used instrumentation as well. I knew I wanted to work with his sound from the very beginning because of his use of static. But the word static you can think of as being an undesirable, like lack of good reception or something. But the way he uses it, he makes it a desirable. So threading took place just this last weekend at this fabulous place called the Folly Bowl. Have you ever been?
No, but I've heard about it.
You guys have to check it out. So it's this wonderful outdoor amphitheater. It's the home of Sue Dad and James Griffith. They're both artists. One's a landscape artist and the other one's a painter. And they completely converted the backyard, which was this steep ravine, and tiered it and created this amazing outdoor amphitheater. And Sue is an amazing landscape artist. So you're sitting within the most amazing garden and watching a performance there. So it's just a magical place, and it gives you the ideal audience because everyone's so happy to be there. So you can bring your own picnic, a bottle of wine, and then
actually that's where he and his wife met.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You can meet your future mate.
It's a romantic place.
Okay, so as everything is inspired by something I've read or heard about. So recently on NPR and in the New Yorker, they had a story of the discovery of a lost civilization in the rainforest outside of Honduras.
Oh, really?
So they haven't actually physically seen this, but it's been captured through what they call LARTStream technologies, which is between laser and radar technologies. So they penetrated the rainforest. I think it's a triple canopy rainforest that you can't get to by foot. And discovered a massive civilization that they never knew about before, but only in this imaging process. So it was a piece that was inspired by this whole thing of penetrating the organic, impenetrable canopy to reveal architectural forms. So they discovered pyramids, road systems, everything. So they're scheduled to drop in early next year to actually explore.
Wow.
Yeah. So
this is in the rainforest?
Outside of Honduras, yes.
Wow. That's amazing.
So this is a collaboration with Karu Mansour. She did one of the layers of Scrim. And then I worked again with Odea Nini and Joe Berardi. And then Brenda Bynum and James Griffith did live drawing. was, again, one of those incredible experiences of group synchronicity. And that's, that in the end is what I think it's all about for me, is why I'm so interested in this kind of performance where it's not where it's very invested in improvisation. Is I love what happens when everyone is on the edge of their seats. They're familiar with the basic premise of a piece, but they don't really know where it's going to go. And so you have to just listen and watch and just be completely alert. And then you just feel like you all start riding the ship together. That's what I love.
Nice.
So some people use the expression that what my pieces are is me creating a container or a framework, but maybe I think a container might be a good way to put it, where my collaborators it keeps everyone on board, like sort of focused in the same area, but they're given an incredible amount of freedom to do what they do best in an improvisational way. So I try to create these collaborations where I'm not telling you, Alan, I want you to do X, Y, and Z and this kind of thing, but it's more like, these are my ideas. And these are the sections, and this is how I'm responding to the space, and this is the text that I'm working with. So I try to communicate this in as clear a manner as possible. But then it's like, but I want you to do what you do. So like, how do I put this? I feel like I give people a lot of space to really make it theirs as well, and not have it be doing your thing at the service of my piece, my ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it makes it more fun and interesting for everyone, and makes people invest themselves into the work.
We've run out of time, unfortunately. But on the sidebar, we have the links to all of the videos.
Yeah.
So you can watch them in full. And thank you so much for being on the show, Miss Carole.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Alan.
Awesome to finally get you on this thing.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to hear about future shows, they can just contact me, and I'll be happy to put them on the list.
You're on Facebook, I know.
I'm on Facebook, and
you have a Twitter?
No, I don't Twitter. No. I don't.
And you have a website.
And I have a website.
Nice. So we'll put all that information on the sidebar, or Mark will, and you could check it all out. All the future tapestries of Miss Carole Kim. Thank you for being on.
Okay, thank you, Alan.